Hey, gorgeous. So good to be here with you. I want to talk about archetypes. Some of you may know me from the Divine Feminine Summit. I did that 2020, 2021, and 2022. It was such a great privilege and honor. We had over 63 transmissions from feminine leaders, and we activated a divine feminine archetype. So I want to talk about how we activate archetypes and what archetypes are, particularly in the divine feminine archetypes. So let's first understand what an archetype is. It's like shorthand for the psyche or the consciousness. It's like when you have a dream and you dream of a black cat. A black cat has a symbolism that is known across our psyches. In reality, we're all connected. We don't even know the ways in which we're connected, but our collective consciousness knows the ways that we're connected. And over millennia, our collective consciousness has grouped experiences or energies in certain ways, like the black cat. The symbolism of the black cat can mean something in a dream that everyone shares. That's why you can Google dream with the black cat and you can find people's weighing in on what does that signify, and then you apply it to your own life. That's an analogy that hopefully supports in understanding how archetypes work. They, in my view, they are energies. They're energies from the collective. So let's take the archetype of the divine feminine archetype of Kali Ma. Kali Ma is an Indian deity who is represented by death and rebirth. There's a saying in India, when you get hit on the head, you've been visited by Kali Ma. She, like other deities in the Indian Hindu pantheon, are for your awakening. They're for your evolution in consciousness. They're for divine love. So Kali's way is smacking you upside the head with a 2x4 to wake you up. Her other way is taking things that you think you want in order to have what you really want, in order to learn a lesson, in order to grow, in order to become more conscious, in order to wake up to your essential nature. That's Kali Ma. Now, to a Hindu, maybe Kali Ma like really exists. Maybe she really exists to you as an energy field, as a frequency you can feel almost to the touch. You can certainly sense it. That's one way of playing with archetypes, but that's not even how you have to play with archetypes. You can simply play with archetypes by understanding that that's a name given to this phenomenon of death and rebirth. Like shit happens all the time, right? The barn's burnt down. Now I see the moon. That would be a very Kali Ma statement. It's a samurai statement. So in other cultures all over the place, we understand that there are times when stuff gets just wiped out of our lives. And then if we stay in the game long enough, we see like, oh, I grew from that. Or, oh, my whole life opened up from that. Or I would have never left that marriage or left that house. It had to be taken. And now I'm this person. I grieve the loss of that. And I also celebrate who I have become as a result. That would be the energy of Kali Ma. In the Western world, that energy of Kali Ma was known as Hecate. Hecate is the goddess of the crossroads, transitions, the goddess in the night. She rules hounds, which I love about her. She goes to people who are prematurely dying. She is a plant medicine woman. She's the leader of the witches, which the witches are the plant medicine women. You know, they were labeled as witches, and we understand that word witch in a derogatory way, but it was not back then. It was women who gave their gifts through herbology, through potions, who knew how to fix ailments. She was their goddess. And so you think about the phases of life, of like death, or the phases of transitions, crossroads, the phases of knowing and standing in your power, like having a reckoning moment where you have to choose. Do I choose to stand in my power, or do I fold? Those are like, that's maybe a Durga moment. Maybe that's a Hecate moment. Maybe that's a Kali Ma moment. These are energy frequencies that we inhabit right now, and to give them name and give them a status like archetype, avatar, or goddess, to me, opens up our ability to work with them in such a way that creates our power, not creates, but I would say gives us access to our hidden power. Because in a patriarchal world, it would be natural to think that our power comes from might, strength, brute force. Might makes right is one of the statements of patriarchy. If I don't like what you're saying, I will just hit you, right? I will dominate you and subjugate you so that you do what I tell you to do. That viewpoint is alive and well in China. It's alive and well in Iran. It's alive and well in Afghanistan, probably Israel as well, to some extent in this country as well. So that is an old way of doing things. That's a patriarchal way of understanding power. It doesn't get us very far on the evolutionary scale, does it? And that's why the Dalai Lama said, all war is obsolete. We're now in, as Daniel Schmachtenberger says, who's a futurist philosopher, we're in omni win-win or omni lose-lose. The nukes are too destructive to be in a win-lose paradigm. That's might makes right. You still exist in a win-lose paradigm, right? Because I could win if I just was stronger than you, if I had more guns or better ammunition or a better tactical plan, or I cut off the strategic waterways, whatever. I'm just strategizing, and I'm smarter, and I won and you lost, and that's just how it is. Doesn't work like that anymore. When we use nuclear arms, we are omni win-win or omni lose-lose. That's why this game in Russia is not going to work. The international community needs to be a full fucking no, because everyone loses with nuclear weapons. So I digress. Let me get back to archetypes. So we have the understanding that that's power. Do we not? Was anyone taught inside of elementary school or grade school of these other forms of power? When I started working with archetypes, and that came through serendipitously and accidentally when I started doing the Divine Feminine Summit, but part of my beingness natively knows those archetypes. I've always loved Hinduism. I've always felt like past lives I've been Indian. They say, every Indian says that somebody at one point, everyone was an Indian in a past life. I hope that's true, because that feels like a seed of consciousness that country has carried for thousands of years. And we now have access as we wake up and notice the divine feminine rising. What does that mean? The principle, the feminine principle in our awareness that opens us up to Shakti, which is the primordial movement of energy, which is neither male or female, but that movement of energy itself is the feminine, because anything that's moving is the feminine. The masculine is the death zone, right? The pure awareness, the pure consciousness. This is like David Data's work. The masculine comes from the zero space, the no thing. It's like Shiva. Shakti is the everything, the all, the play of form. And if we notice inside the play of form, what we can notice is that there are different flavors of sensations, different flavors of energy, different expressions, different rites of passage. Like the death passage is different from the abundance passage. Think about Lakshmi Ma, like Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. She is the goddess of the earth, planet Earth. There's a mythology where she withdraws herself from the earth and everything dies. It's winter perpetually. It takes Vishnu, her consort, to like bring her back into aliveness. And it was because someone's arrogance blew off one of her gifts. And she's like, fine, you don't need me. I'll just go away. And Vishnu was like, no, we need you. They need you. Come back. And then spring came back. It's one of the beautiful stories, I believe, is told, let's see if I can remember, in Sally Kempton's book. So there's tales of these mythologies. They're from oral tradition, so they're all different types. You can hear them a million different ways. And that's part of the beauty of the goddess. She morphs into a million different forms. That's why in India, there are statues of forms of goddesses that like, and they are said that in the statue itself is the frequency of that goddess, the avatar, the archetype. I use those words interchangeably, even though they mean different things. The reason why I use them interchangeably is because someone can be an avatar and not necessarily an archetype, but like say Mother Teresa. She, to me, I have the archetype of Mother Teresa. So when I am with people, even with the poor or the sick, there's a part of me that comes alive. That is the Mother Teresa archetype, even though I believe she was an avatar. She was sent to this world as a master teacher. Let's talk about a few others, like the archetype of the high priestess. I really love this. That comes, for me, that comes from the medial woman, the woman who is the introvert. She is in her own space, communing with the divine, having access to sacred wisdom. You get that? She has access to sacred wisdom in her own heart. You can feel that for yourself, can't you? And I don't want to define this because the definitions are fluid. It's truly for you to define. It's truly for you to step into your power and feel these different frequencies. But I'm just giving a little shape to them to start you off. You know, I had a situation come where I went on this date and this person was really more aggressive than I liked and wasn't really paying attention to my no. And I thought for a moment, oh gosh, are we going to have a problem here? And I realized, no, I have access to the dark goddesses. So I just filled my being, not even like a process or anything. I just, like in my awareness, knew that I embody Hecate. And I knew that energetically, I would cut his head off before anything ever happened to me. And so I never got into fear. And I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't in the situations, there's no prescription here. This is just a story of my experience in that situation. There was another story where I was driving down an alleyway and I saw this guy like kick his dog, not super hard, but just, and then he did it again. And I know the kind of dog, it was a cattle dog, and I've had cattle dogs and they're super smart. They're super obedient. They're super on point. They are not screwing around. So I drove up to that guy, like they were on the side of me, and I said, "Why'd you kick your dog?" And he's like, "I didn't." And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I saw you." And in that moment, I was Hecate. She is the goddess of the hounds. And I just knew that her frequency was running through me. And I also knew I didn't really have to do much. I just knew she would do it. She was just using my voice, my eyes, my presence, my words to say the thing, to call him forward. I don't know what happened. And really, I'm not the police officer of the entire world. I'm just here to show up. And I use the frequencies when I show up to allow them to move through me as archetypes. That's in my gene keys. So I'm loving teaching this to you. So why don't we crowdsource in the comments, what's your archetype that you like to play with, and how does that move through your being in a very special way?